Good morning from Lehigh University. My name is Samba Jang. I am the director of the Office of International Students and Scholars here at Lehigh. I'm here today with my colleagues from Residential Services, Christina de Aversa, and my colleague Chris Harvey from the Office of International Affairs, our IT person. So this webinar today is really all about just residential services, resources for residential services, how you can find housing, what options do you have. So at this point, I am gonna turn it over to my colleague, Christina de Aversa. At the end of her presentation, if you have any questions that you may wanna follow up with, just use the chat feature and jot down some of the questions you may have, and Christina will do her best to answer them. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Samba. Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to talk to you about graduate housing and the options that you have for housing both on and off campus while you're here with us at Lehigh. We're going to cover what is housing services, or as Samba said, residential services, which is just our fancy name for housing. Talk a little bit about how you can decide between on-campus and off-campus living and what might work best for you. And then we'll talk about the on-campus housing process and our off-campus housing resources. As Samba mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to chat those in and we'll answer those at the end. So the first thing I'd like you to know is this quick link, go.lehigh.edu/housing. If you can remember that Go link, you'll find all of the information that we're talking about today and then some, and you'll be able to use that as a resource as you search for housing either on or off campus here at Lehigh. So housing services, which is the office on campus that handles on-campus housing and off-campus resources, we cover the graduate and family apartments as well as an 18 single bedroom, 2-house facility where graduate students can live on campus. We also handle our residence halls for undergrad students and our Greek houses for our undergrad students. So we are all inclusive when it comes to on-campus housing. We manage everything from the facilities to the renovations, any life safety concerns. So we make sure that your facilities are up to date and wonderful places for you to live. But we also serve as an off-campus housing resource. So while we aren't able to help you find off-campus housing, we do want to provide as many resources as possible to make your living experience at Lehigh one that you will enjoy and enjoy and have a good time while you're here at Lehigh. Our office is located on our campus in the building known as Rathbone Hall, and on the screen you can see our contact information. You can email us at the email address listed. Our office is open Monday through Friday from 8:15 a.m. to 4:45 p.m., and that's Eastern Standard Time in the United States. And if you need to call us, you can use the exit code from your country plus the US country code 1, and you'll see our area code 610 and local number 758-3500. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to start talking about finding housing. And there's a lot of information on this screen. It's all available on our website through the Go link. But there's 4 major pieces that you want to think about when you're looking at housing. What we call the logistics. So do you want to live in an apartment, or would you prefer a house where you have just a few roommates? Where would you like to live? Do you want to live close to your classes? Do you not mind having a commute? What amenities are you looking for? Do you want a washer and dryer in your facility or one that's in walking distance? And many more, as you can see on the screen. You also need to think about money or finances that go along with your housing selection. So do they require a security deposit, which is money when you sign your lease? What is the rent? How much is the rent? What utilities like TV, internet, electric are included in the rent? Or if they're not included, what's the average cost of those on top of the rent that you'll be paying? You want to think about the management or who is going to be taking care of your property or house. So if it's Lehigh, our office would be your landlord, so to say. If it's an off-campus, it would be a private third-party vendor. And so you want to think about things like, what's the condition of the unit? If you're not here to see it, you want to ask questions to see pictures. Does it follow the city code? Is it licensed and inspected, which means it's been approved to have a renter live in it? And then most importantly, ask lots of questions. If the landlord, if you're looking off campus, the landlord should be able to provide some references of current people and former people that have lived in the property, that you can talk to them and ask them questions like what they liked, what they didn't like, if there were any issues, if the landlord responded in a timely manner, etc. So again, this is a lot of information, but it's all on your Go link. If you take a time, it's under Things to Consider on our website, which I'll show you towards the end of this presentation. We're going to talk a little bit about on-campus housing and the resources that you can find in regards to on-campus housing. So on the same website that I've been referencing, there's information for our on-campus housing facilities. And as I mentioned, we have one apartment complex that houses 128 graduate students and roommates. And we also have 2 small houses, and we lease those to individuals, and there's 18 spaces total. When you go to our page, go.lehigh.edu/housing, you'll see an entire section for graduate housing. And on that page, you will see each of the 3 facilities. You'll be able to click on that and read information about each one of those, including the apartment and housing information. So what type of housing, how many people are allowed to live in each type of housing. You'll see information about applying for housing, which we'll talk about more in just a minute. You'll see information on the amenities. So for example, in Saucon Village, which is our apartment complex, in addition to the housing that's available to you, we have picnic tables, barbecue, there's a play area for children, and so all the amenities for each of the different buildings is listed, and you can actually see pictures of what the facility looks like and what those amenities are. You'll also see our policies and contracts, and that's our rules and regulations for living on campus. So it includes things like you are not permitted to have candles, you are permitted to have coffee makers, things like that. It includes safety and emergency information in regards to the security of our buildings and what to do in an emergency situation. And it also includes information about transportation on our campus. So we have a bus system that runs the campus on Lehigh's property. And no matter where you live, if you don't have a car, that's okay, because you can take our transportation around campus to get to and from your classes. If you're interested in our on-campus housing process, we have additional resources under the housing applications section that talk to you about how to apply for housing. So to participate in our grad housing process, you need to be a full-time graduate student, which does not include visiting researchers or scholars, and you have to be working towards a degree. Unfortunately, due to the limited number of on-campus spaces that we have, we cannot guarantee on-campus housing for all of our graduate students, but we do encourage anyone who's interested in housing to apply. Our housing process for the fall begins today, and the lottery application is open for fall housing. When you fill that out, you will include not only your contact information, but also your preferences. So I encourage you to look through the housing website and make some decisions about which of the types of housing you would prefer first and also second. That process of signing up for the housing is open from now through May 15th, and it does not matter when you sign up. As long as you're signed up by May 15th at the end of the day, you'll be included in what we call a lottery. And what a lottery is once we have the numbers, we randomize everybody in our system and everybody gets a number from 1 to whatever the last participant number is. At that point, we will post the information on our website. So on May 16th, you'll be able to see what number you are in our housing process. And starting on the 16th through May 20th, we will send out housing offers for the students that have the lowest numbers. So number 1 is the best number in this process. You will receive your housing offer, if we're able to offer you housing, to the email that you give us when you apply for the housing process. After all of our housing has been accepted by the students that are offered, we begin what we call a wait list. And the wait list means we're not able to offer you housing initially, but that we will continue to offer housing if spaces become available. And that process will begin around May 21st. So as I mentioned, the lottery is a random process where everybody that signs up between May 1st and May 15th will receive a number. When you fill out your application, you will be asked to select your preferences for housing. So Packer, which is one of our buildings where we do one-person leases, and you get a single bedroom where you share a bathroom with the other residents of the house, versus Saucon Village, which is our apartment complex. And we break Saucon Village down a little bit further. We have several types of housing. We have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms, and then we also have efficiencies, which is 1 large room which serves as your common area and your bedroom, but still includes a kitchen. So when you fill out your housing application, you will be asked to give us 2 preferences in the order that you would prefer. The more flexible that you are when you're filling out your application, the more chance you have that we will be able to offer you something. So in other words, if you only give us 1 option, that's the only option that we can consider you for when we get to your number. And if we don't have any of those spaces, then you would not get a housing offer. But if you give us 2 choices, we might be able to offer you your second choice. So I encourage everyone to list 2 choices on the housing application. Off-campus housing, which surrounds Lehigh's community on 3 of the 4 sides and goes across the river into North Bethlehem, is also a great resource for our graduate students. And on our website, go.lehigh.edu/housing, you will find a variety of resources, things to consider, such as the logistics, finances, management, and questions we talked about earlier. Information about leases, which is the contract that you will sign with your landlord. And it goes into details such as what should be in a lease, what should not be in a lease, what questions you should ask the landlord before you're signing the lease. Legal resources, so that you understand what your rights are as a tenant or someone that's going to rent the property from another person that's not affiliated with Lehigh. It'll cover apartment services and what questions you should ask to your landlord in regards to the amenities that can be offered. It'll cover safety tips for living off campus, being a part of the community off campus, and we also offer a student-to-student advice piece where former off-campus students have talked about things such as what was great about living off campus, what they wish they would know before they signed the lease, etc. So all of these resources are available under the off-campus living resources of our website. One of the biggest questions that we get in regards to off-campus housing is, how do I find off-campus housing? And there's several places that you can find it. Lehigh partners with a company called Places for Students, and it's on our website under the off-campus housing section. On that site, you're able to log in using your Lehigh user ID and find information on local landlords that have off-campus facilities that have been approved by the city of Bethlehem. The other options would be, if you're local or have friends that are already here, A lot of our off-campus housings will have their landlord's information on the houses with contact and information, both email, phone, and websites for their off-campus houses. We have a student newspaper called the Brown and White, and landlords often will run ads in that, and that is available in an online version as well. So if you go to Lehigh's homepage and search for Brown and White, you can find the online Brown and White where you can look for different landlords that are advertising in the newspaper. Another area that students often say they find off-campus housing information on is through social media. So Facebook is primarily where a lot of the landlords will advertise, but they can also advertise on Twitter or Instagram, depending on which platform they're using. And word of mouth is another way to find a really good landlord or good properties. So again, if you know someone that's here, reach out to them and ask them where they live, if they have recommendations, if they have friends that have recommendations, and those are all good places to help start your search for off-campus housing. Very quickly before we end, I'm just going to show you our website. So as I said, you can use the go.lehigh.edu/housing site, or if you land on Lehigh's homepage, under Student Life, there's Housing and Dining. And if you click on the Housing and Dining, you'll see a section for housing. That'll take you to that same page that we talked about. If you select Graduate Housing, you'll be able to find all of the information that I spoke earlier about in regards to our on-campus housing. So you'll see here on the left, we have 3 facilities, and if you click on those facilities, it's going to tell you information about each one of those, such as what type of housing is available, where it's located on campus, how many people can live in that type of housing with you if you're coming with friends you want to live with or family. But the biggest thing I would suggest would be the resource section and the frequently asked questions section. So in the resource section, you will see, again, each of our facilities listed. And when you click on the facility, it will jump you to the different things I was talking about earlier: apartment information, housing applications, etc. And you can go through each of those and see the breakdown. So I've clicked on Saucon Village, which is our apartment complex, for the just general apartment information, and you can see that it gives you the description of the house and all of the information. You can see sample floor plans for each of the different types of rooms, and we also have pictures available for you to scroll through and take a look at what the housing facility looks like. And you can go through that with each of these different links. If you click on amenities, you'll see all the amenities that are offered. So you can kind of go through and take a look at all of the different information that we have online. The other link that I highly suggest is the frequently asked questions, and we have a section for frequently asked questions just for incoming students. So it talks about who's eligible, how do I apply, when should I apply, and so this is a great section to answer some of your initial questions about housing on Lehigh's campus if you're interested. The other section that you will see on our homepage is called the off-campus housing, and that covers more than what we talked about earlier. So you can see under the off-campus housing section that we have information about finding your housing, what to consider when you're looking for off-campus housing. As I mentioned earlier, information about leasing and legal resources. There's a section on student-to-student advice. So all of these pages are great resources to start thinking about the off-campus housing process and the search that you will be doing. So at this point, I'd like to wrap up and see what questions we have.
Sure. Thank you, Christina. So we have a question from Sohaila. Sohaila wants to know if she has more than 2 preferences for on-campus housing, is it okay to sign up twice? That's the first question.
If you have more than 2 preferences, you don't need to sign up twice. What we've found in the last couple of years is that students typically have two preferences. So that's what the application allows for you to fill in. If you have more than two, what I would suggest is sign up with your top two, and then you can send our department an email letting us know that you had more than two and what those options would be in the order that you would like them. So we'll add those to the application for you.
Okay. And the next question is from Sarah Al-Najjar. Sarah wants to know when the lottery numbers will be posted, and will it be based on her ID number or names?
So our graduate housing application information is under our grad housing dropdown. And you can see here that the timeline is May 16th. So May 16th, we will post the lottery numbers. And they're not based on your ID. They are based on just a random process. So what happens is when you sign up for our process, and I can show you this very quickly, there's a link right on that page where you'll click. And you'll fill out this application. And we do ask for your LIN and an email address and a phone number if you are able to provide a phone number. We also ask for your move-in date and just different information. After everybody signs up, we will randomize all the applications, and you'll receive a number from 1 through whatever the last applicant is. And so the lottery numbers are based on a random assignment.
Okay. So another question here for you, Christina. Mohammed is asking how he can reach you if he has any further questions that are not found on the FAQ.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if you have any other questions and you need to reach us, you can either email our office or call our office. Let me show you here. So you can see here our contact information. So you can email us at the email address listed. You can call us. Those are probably the best ways. We do have a Facebook page. If you're on Facebook and Twitter, we have a Twitter page. And there's links to the social media sites right off of our homepage. So if you use go.lehigh.edu/housing, you'll land on this page right here, and all of our contact information is right there.
Okay. And the next question is from Pedro. Pedro is wondering if electricity and other utilities are included in the monthly cost that is on the website.
So for on-campus housing, if you live in one of our facilities, such as 230 West Packer or Packer House, your electricity is included. In Saucon Village, which is our apartment complex, the electricity is separate. So that is put into your name or the leaseholder's name if you're a roommate, and you pay for that separately. In regards to off-campus housing, majority of the time the students have to pay for their own electric, but there are some landlords who will include it in the lease. That's one of the questions that you would want to ask when looking for off-campus housing, so that you understand if it's included or not.
Okay. The next question is from Amin. Amin's last name is long, but I'm going to try. Amin Ganbari Tordar is wondering, can you please explain somehow more about the important features of on-campus housing against off-campus? So basically, can you give a comparison between on-campus housing features, what's in it, and then off-campus housing features? Like, for instance, if you go off-campus and you find your own housing, will you find furniture there and things like that? I think that's what he's asking. Amin.
That's a great question. So it varies from landlord to landlord. On campus, Packer and 230 West Packer both come completely furnished. And if you go to our website and link onto these pages, I'm going to do it under the resources, you can find information on the different amenities that are provided. So for example, in Packer House, there's air conditioning, there's barbecue grills and picnic tables available. We provide the cable TV, we provide the electricity, we provide the internet, etc. So you can see what's available. And you can do the same for all of our facilities, Packer, 230 West Packer, and Saucon. What I can tell you to kind of summarize is that 230 West Packer and Packer House are furnished, and we provide all of the utilities, including cable, internet, and electric. Saucon Village is not furnished. We provide the cable and the internet, but the students provide the electricity. We have laundry facilities in all of our housing, not in unit, but in the same building where you reside, so that it's a brief walk to do your laundry. In regards to the off-campus, those are great questions that you should ask landlords as you are looking at properties before you sign the lease. So some landlords do provide furnished housing, some landlords do not. Cable TV, internet, and electricity is landlord by landlord, so they may or may not provide that. Other things that you want to ask about are trash, the security, how work orders or how problems in the building get resolved. So every landlord is a private individual landlord, and they have the right to include or not include all amenities in their lease. So all good questions that you want to ask before signing the lease.
Okay, thank you, Christina. So the next question is from Kai. So I think he is wondering whether the on-campus housing that has 2 or 3 bedrooms can be offered to one person, especially if it's maybe somebody like a student who comes with a dependent, or do 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom housing options have to be shared with other students?
That's also a great question. So in Saucon Village, which is our apartment complex, that's where students that would be coming with families or roommates that they want to live with would want to live. So the way we do our housing is we offer to one individual. So whether you choose an efficiency, a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, or a 3-bedroom, we're going to sign our lease with one person. If you're bringing your family with you, you would then sign them up to live with you. So we don't force anyone to live with anybody else. We will sign the lease for the type of building or type of apartment to you directly. And then you can either bring your family, you could choose to find a roommate on your own and sign them up with us. We don't require you to live with other people.
Okay, great. All right, do you have any other questions? Oh, here's one. So Jay Ann is asking, can we simply extend our monthly contract over the summer, or do we have to evacuate over the summer and reapply if we wish to stay over the summer?
That's a great question. So if you're on campus, once you sign your lease with us, you will sign it for either 6 months or 1 year, and you can continue to renew that until you're finished with your program, and that includes the summers. So you can live here year-round if you need to. The one question that we sometimes get is students will travel over the summer. If you do want to keep your apartment for the following year, you will need to pay for the lease over the summer. Off-campus facilities are typically rented on 12-month leases, and the landlord will typically renew with you towards the end of the fall semester. So again, if you are interested in staying, as long as the landlord and you agree, you will continue to sign your lease and you'll have that over the summer.
Okay, here's another question for you, Christina. This is from Amin, and Amin is wondering if using the same kitchen is okay if you use it with like 1 million people.
Well, in Saucon Village, our apartment complex, every apartment has its own kitchen. So you don't need to share a common kitchen with others, only those that are living in the apartment. In Packer and 230 West Packer, there is one common kitchen for all residents. We have staff that work in the buildings that maintain the cleanliness of those facilities on a daily basis. We do ask the residents to clean up after themselves, do their own dishes, etc. But yes, as long as everybody that is living in the facility is cleaning up after themselves, the kitchens stay pretty nice. We also do what we call a deep clean, or once a year, where we ask residents to remove their stuff from the fridges and the freezers, and we provide coolers so that every year the facility is getting a really good clean.
Okay, thank you. And another question from Pedro. So Pedro wants to know, is it guaranteed that a on-campus person will have the possibility of a parking space close to his room or apartment? Even though it is paid, can we count on having a parking space, or is there a possibility that you will not have this opportunity?
Sure. So you can have a parking permit if you have a car and you live in on-campus housing. The location of the parking varies slightly. So if you live in Saucon Village, we have a parking lot right next to the facility, and it's guaranteed that you can park there as long as you buy a parking permit. For Packer and 230 West Packer, there is parking available. It's not necessarily right next to the building. So that would be something you would contact parking services about in regards to the location of that. We have some construction going on next to those buildings right now, so the parking is shifting a little bit, and I don't have an exact answer on that.
All right, so another one from Mohammed. Mohammed wants to know if he's lucky enough to get on-campus housing, let's say a 2-bedroom on Saucon. Can he offer one of the rooms to one of his friends as a new resident?
Yes, absolutely. So if you receive a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, or a 3-bedroom, you could have one or more roommates if you so choose. And that would be up to you. So you would find the roommate, and then you would simply fill out what we call a roommate agreement, so that we know that the student is living there with you, and we'll issue keys to that student as well.
All right. Any other questions for Christina? Oh, here's one. So here's another question for Ming Zhang. Ming wants to know, how do you figure out the number of vacancies of each on-campus apartment? Like, what's the availability?
Right. So the availability on our end is based on the students that are currently living there, that are graduating or leaving. We don't publish that information anywhere on our website, but if you're interested in knowing what the projections are, you can email our office, and I'd be happy to share that information with you. It changes almost daily from now through August as students are able to graduate or walk for graduation, or students have some kind of a life change and decide to relocate.
Okay. So Pedro wants to know if he's one of the lucky ones to be in Saucon Village, and his fiance wants to come maybe for a couple of weeks, or like a family member. Is that allowed?
So if you are in Saucon, you can have anybody come to visit you. We do ask if they're going to be here for more than 14 days that you let us know. And we can also issue them keys if you would like, which makes it a little bit easier for them to come and go without always having to be with you. In the Packer and the 230 West Packer, we do have a guest policy, because those are small houses where you're sharing the common space, bathrooms, and kitchens with the others. And so we ask in Packer and 230 West Packer that you don't have guests for more than 3 days in a row, and that in a 30-day time period or a 1-month time period, they don't visit more than 3 days total.
Okay. Here's another question from Lida Yan. Lida wants to know if there is a penalty or something to that nature if she decides to reject the housing offer.
It's a great question. So if you apply between now and May 15th, and then you receive an offer, there's no penalty if you decide that you don't want to accept the offer. We'll simply cancel your housing application and offer to the next person. Once you accept your housing offer, we will ask for a small deposit. Once that deposit is made, if you decide to cancel your housing, it's non-refundable. So at that point, you would lose the housing deposit that you made.
Okay, thank you. Another one from Sarah Al-Najjar. Sarah wants to know if she inputs a move-in date, but we are unable to offer an apartment for that specific date. Are we flexible to offer the apartment for a later move-in date?
Yes, absolutely. When we get to you on the lottery list, we're going to look at your first choice of housing. And let's say it's a 1-bedroom and you're asking to move in early August. If we don't have a 1-bedroom available in early August, but we have one available in mid-August, we will offer that to you. Same thing goes if we get to your second choice. So our goal is when we get to you to make an offer for the type that you want, even if the move-in date is later than what you're requesting.
Okay. And Sarah also had a follow-up question, Christina. She wants to know if she pays the deposit to save her spot, even if she's not in Bethlehem, is that going to be an issue? Because she doesn't plan on being here, obviously, until August.
That's not a problem at all. We actually take our deposits online through the website, so you can pay through your bank account or with a credit card online. You don't need to physically come to Bethlehem or to our office to be able to make the deposit.
Okay. And another question from Pedro. Pedro says, according to the website, visitors in Efficiency Saucon are only allowed to stay for 2 weeks. Can they stay more than that?
Unfortunately, in the efficiencies, you can only have a visitor up to 2 weeks because the city code says that efficiencies can't house more than 1 person, and they look at 2 weeks as the visitation policy. So if you live in an efficiency, the longest your visitors could come would be 2 weeks at a time.
Thank you, Christina. Any other questions from the audience? Looks like we're done. So the next webinar will be in June, but this time it's going to be by college. So we will not be inviting the entire incoming graduate class to the webinar. It's going to be by college. I believe the College of Engineering students will be coming first, and then the College of Business, and then the College of Arts and Sciences. It's going to be combined with the College of Education. So please look out for another invitation to come to your inbox soon for the webinar in June regarding the College of Engineering. Okay, thank you very much, and have a good evening, morning, wherever you are, and we look forward to having you here in August. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.